determined the fate of the EP-3 aircraft stranded on Hainan Island. Washington appears to be hardening its stance ahead of a meeting with China next week over the spy plane incident. The US Defense Secretary presented video images shot from a US surveillance plane in January showing a Chinese fighter jet edging within a few meters of an American aircraft. Donald Rumsfeld said that the Chinese pilot on that occasion was Wang Wei, who is missing and presumed dead following the collision which triggered the current row. Mr. Rumsfeld claimed that the crash over the South China Sea near Hainan was the result of months of aggression by the Chinese.
It is clear that the pilot intended to harass the crew. It was not the first time that our reconnaissance and surveillance flights flying in that area received that type of aggressive contact from interceptors.
The defense chief also denied allegations that the US military provoked the incidents.
This is not an unusual practice to fly these reconnaissance flights. The United States has done it hundreds of times. At least 6 countries fly reconnaissance missions in Asia, including China. There was nothing new or different about the mission on March 31st.
The Foreign Ministry in Beijing said the pictures proved nothing and accused Washington of trying to evade responsibility. And Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhu Bangjiao, who is accompanying President Zhang,
led to the arrest of 2 men and a woman.
我们认为美方必须对这个事件承担全部的责任，必须向中国人民做出交代，停止在中国沿海进行侦察活动，防止类似事件再次发生。
The mainland state media ignored Washington's accusations. Meanwhile, the 24 crew members of the American spy plane who left Hainan on Thursday are due to return to their base near Seattle tomorrow morning, Hong Kong time.
An inquiry.
Amy Orr, TVB News.
A Japanese trawler off Hawaii. The crash in February claimed the lives of 9 people on board the Japanese.
At a resort in Kowloon Tong, the man was seen climbing on the
Submarine Commander Scott Waddell.
The report is being handed off to Admiral Thomas Fargo, who on Thursday had a very good day as he welcomed the 24 EP-3 crew members home from China. The report on the Greenville will be a much grimmer task for him. A source says the report by the 3 admirals that made up last month's court of inquiry at Pearl Harbor is severely critical of the sub's captain, Commander Scott Waddell, and 2 other officers, in particular chastising Waddell for his venturing out to sea with a broken piece of sonar equipment and for performing an inadequate periscope sweep before demonstrating an emergency surfacing procedure and striking the Ehime Maru fishing boat, killing 9 people on board. However, the source says the admirals may be divided on the recommended punishment. One or more may be leaning against a court-martial in favor of a far less severe punishment known as an admiral's mast, which would mean restrictions and loss of a month's pay. But one or more admirals may be leaning toward a court-martial, which could mean up to 3 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide.
Many in the military hope Waddell does not receive a court-martial, saying it has never happened for a peacetime accident and could seriously undermine morale in the Navy.
Locally, the police have confirmed.
A119 The Pentagon says this was the view from the cockpit of an EP-3 last January.
We got a VID on him.
The Chinese fighter jet flying close by, according to the Pentagon, is the same jet that collided with the EP-3 13 days ago.
Whoa. Going right in front of us. Same altitude. All right. Whoa, we got bumped.
Felt that one.
We got thumped.
Thumped, the pilots say, by airflow from the Chinese jet's engines.
And he's very, very close.
Oh, yes.
He's almost probably 20 feet from our wingtip. So he's inside of our wingtip.
The Pentagon is not certain the Chinese pilot in the video is missing pilot Wang Wei, but this is the jet he often flew. What the Pentagon does say is that since December, Chinese fighter jets have intercepted American surveillance flights 44 times.
Ooh, he got himself this guy's having a little bit of problems. He's squirrely, not real steady.
It is clear that the pilot intended to harass the crew.
Secretary Rumsfeld says he has no doubt that is what happened on April 1st when the Chinese fighter jet hit the EP-3 from the underside, sending it into a 5,000 to 8,000-foot dive from which it barely recovered.
The F-8 pilot clearly put at risk the lives of 24 Americans. It seemed to me that with the crew safely back in the United States, that it was time to set out factually what actually took place.
This tough tone will be carried to next week's meeting with Chinese officials in Beijing, where U.S. officials will demand answers from the Chinese. Why do you use such aggressive tactics in international airspace? Why did you hold American servicemen and women 11 days in detention? And why did you demand an apology before you had an investigation?
China says the U.S. video proves nothing and is accusing Washington of trying to evade its responsibility for the incidents. Meanwhile, search for the pilot Wang Wei has been called off. Amy Orr reports.
According to the Xinhua news agency, China terminated the search for Wang Wei at 6 o'clock this evening. The authorities believe there is almost no chance that the pilot has survived, but the diplomatic arguments over the incident Wang was involved in are far from over. China today rejected the American claim that Wang was responsible for the April 1st mid-air collision. Foreign Ministry spokesman Sun Yuxi said the U.S. video proved nothing. He urged the U.S. to take a cooperative attitude and not seek excuses to evade responsibility for the incident. Meanwhile, another spokesman, accompanying President Jiang Zemin on his visit to Cuba, insisted that China was the incident. Zhu Bangdao said they reserve all rights to decide what to do with the American spy plane.
我们完全有权对于撞毁我们的飞机、非法侵入中国的领空，并且降落在中国机场的外国飞机进行全面调查。那么，如何处理这些飞机，我们将会根据调查的结果来做出决定。
Zhu added that Sino-U.S. relations would only improve if the U.S. side was willing to respect bilateral agreements on territorial rights. Amy Orr, TVB News.
Thousands of people today staged a peaceful rally in
现在双庙村的大棚菜达到了3000多亩，人均收入5000元以上。
喺1月30號，亦曾攔截美軍偵察機。美國國防部長拉姆斯菲爾德話，舊年已經向中方抗議，要佢哋停止呢一類危險舉動。不過中方冇理會，近期危險攔截嘅個案仲越嚟越多。舊年12月以嚟已經試過44次。 拉姆斯菲爾德喺記者會上又交代中美軍機相撞嘅事發經過。佢話當時嘅美軍偵察機喺接近海南島嘅國際領空，以自動導航系統直線飛行，但中國戰機2次飛近偵察機嘅左邊。到咗第3次嘅中國戰機可能發覺飛得太急同太近，想減速嘅時候機頭向上，結果撞埋偵察機嘅引擎度，跌咗落海。 拉姆斯菲爾德話：偵察機碰撞之後，曾經發出20幾次求救信號，但係因為通訊設備受損，佢哋冇收到中方嘅回應。拉姆斯菲爾德總結話：呢次事件相信係因為中國戰機近距離攔截美軍嘅偵察機引起。
It is clear that the pilot intended to harass the crew. It was not the first time that our reconnaissance and surveillance flights flying in that area received that type of aggressive contact from interceptors.
有線電視記者林美祥報道。
而中國外交部就反駁美國嘅講法，話美國只係想推卸責任，又話套影帶證明唔到任何嘢。有林美祥再報道。